You know what's the most wonderful thing in the world? To be in a crowded room and see the one you love come in and be who she's looking for. Seeing her eyes light up as they meet yours, and the worst is to see her looking for somebody else, especially when you're at an orgy. My beautiful mood that had lasted all day, making everyone wonder what had gotten into me, evaporated that night. A moment after greeting all the regulars and meeting a few new people, I had explained my menu to the eager guests. Some of them had eaten in El Bulli, Ferran Adria's 3 Michelin-star restaurant in Spain, and were excited for his example to be followed in their own country. I started them off with that watermelon gazpacho amuse-bouche with the coin of gelled vodka with chives. I'd gotten the eggs to stand up by placing them on top of rings cut from balsamic black olives. The mixture of bitter, boozy, savory, and sweet was an instant hit. While they were smiling and nodding to each other, still in their suits and gowns, I saw Ariana in the corner of my eye. I stared at her with my mouth open, shocked to see her there, in a long black gown with a slit up the side. I know she knew I was there too, but she didn't look over at me, not even once. I know because I didn't take my eyes off of her. The guests noticed the change in my demeanor, but didn't care. While my food was delicious and interesting and always got them to come to the restaurant the following week, it was not the reason they were there. I gave them their first course, grilled peaches and orange blossom maple dressing, wrapped in prosciutto, then stuffed in endive, and from that moment on I was politely ignored. They sipped champagne and talked amongst themselves a bit, catching up and schmoozing in the calm before the storm. It was amazing how people could talk to one another like this, knowing they'd be naked in a few minutes, and swapping partners as casually as business cards. I was constantly following Ariana with my eyes, and could tell she felt the heat of my gaze on her skin, but she wouldn't exchange glances with me. She always contrived to show me her back or profile, and there was nowhere I could look where I wouldn't see her in the corner of my eye. Because of the slit up the side of her dress, with every other move she made, her long caramel leg flashed bare. It was a loud, bright pulse when she was walking, and if she stood still, sipping champagne and nodding at what somebody was telling her, I found myself waiting for it to happen. The elephant in the room, the impending wild group sex, made her presence here intolerable. She had no good reason to be here, but I was powerless to do anything. I was a servant and she was a guest, and my causing a scene would be the end of my best gig. I had to just sit there and be miserable. And because I was silently fuming, I never saw the tall red-haired man until he was standing right before me, smiling. Rabbit, I presume? In case you don't already know, dear reader, Rabbit's a recurring character in 7 of my books, so nicknamed because that's what some black dudes called me in prison. I hadn't read any of John Updike's books, so I didn't know about his character of the same name until recently. Rabbit was also the protagonist of the book I was writing and posting excerpts of on Facebook at that time, so anyone who followed me would have known that name. Time back in. I stuttered a moment, turned red, and rearranged some of the hors d'oeuvres on my platter. He chuckled, but somehow not at my expense. It was a more avuncular, like ruffling the hair of his favorite nephew. You look like a flower bending toward the sun, he said, nodding in Ariana's direction. You're not careful, you might ruin your posture. Anyway, he clapped his hands and rubbed them together, changing the subject. He turned his attention to the platter. What have you got for us tonight? Well, I said, rallying myself, these are endives. I like that you said endive instead of endive. Yeah, the second pronunciation is a leafy, curly green, and the first is another vegetable entirely. This one. I know, and I'm glad you know it as well. Sorry, go on. It bothers me too, I admitted. When people say it wrong? I nodded. People are dumb, what can I say? So, these are endives, and now you're pronouncing it wrong. I laughed, feeling stupid, and he laughed along with me. It was my fault, he said, patting my shoulder. No, it was, totally. I threw you off. Come on, relax. I took a deep breath, harnessing my chi, and looked at him for the first time. Last night I had seen him, sure, but I hadn't really looked at him. Ken, he said, offering his hand to shake. And I nodded, thinking, of course his name is Ken. He's Barbie's boyfriend, only a little older now, more mature. Back in the day, he rode shotgun in her pink Corvette and was the rear gunner in her pink biplane, which made all the little girls feel empowered, but you could tell that she had an eating disorder to keep him happy. So he was really the one in charge. He had the Ken hair, only ginger, and a dark blue suit with a purple shirt. Celtic knot cufflinks flashed at his wrists. Above all, he had that great Gatsby smile, the one that showed he understood you and believed in you, just as you would love to be understood and believed in. "Johnny," I said, taking his hand. "If that's what you'd rather be called. So, you were saying?" "Right, these are endives stuffed with peaches, wrapped in prosciutto. I'm a vegetarian." I paused, staring at him. "At an orgy?" He chuckled again. "I eat fish, though." "Now that I don't understand. How come mammals and birds are sacred, but fish are expendable?" He shook his head. "I have 2 reasons. Fish are ugly. No cute, hairy, big-eyed puppies or kittens. And they're delicious." I tilted my head from side to side. "Cows are ugly, too, but not ugly enough." At that moment, I noticed the few people who'd known in advance about the flesh pit began to disrobe. Devon had told them so that they would seem to know what they were doing, and the others would follow more naturally, instead of awkwardly as if there'd been an announcement. You know, like those couples you hire to dance at the party so others'll dance too. When the 2 couples who were in their underwear, they went to where a giant inflatable wading pool had leaned, unnoticed, against the far wall. It was of black tarpaulin, already inflated to a room-filling 8 by 10 meters. To a chorus of startled amusement, they dragged it out to the dance floor, and several helpful gentlemen lent a hand. The only person who didn't move to help was Devon, who sidled over to us with his goofy chuckle. "And this is where the small talk ends," he said, grinning. The flesh pit was his idea to keep the parties interesting. It involved a lot of planning, and we would break down laughing every now and then at the sheer silliness of it, trying to be all serious, discussing orgy logistics. What lube should he use? He wanted everyone to be nice and slippery, but not if it meant they'd be sticky afterward. Also, they still had to taste good, so it had to be edible, but not with some artificial strawberry flavor. On top of that, it couldn't cut too deeply into our profits. After all, the whole point of this was to get rich. Glycerin is bad because it's sugar that bacteria can feed on, causing a yeast infection that'll keep people from coming back next month. Almost any kind of oil is bad when you have to put your clothes back on to go home. These people were all wearing suits and gowns, and oil stains were hell to wash. Plus, it can give you diarrhea if you swallow it, which you probably will if you go down on someone coated in it. Same with aloe vera. Talk about a mood killer, right? So what to do? What to squirt all over these people? We ended up using coconut oil because it absorbs easily without leaving any residue and will actually prevent and even treat yeast infections. They'll drive home feeling silky smooth and notice the nice effect on their skin the next day. Now, the oil would not be a good idea if anyone used condoms because that would make them break, but nobody bothered with them. I saw Ariana watching the people getting ready with only a hint of interest, as if she was trying to hide her curiosity. Don't do it, I thought. Don't go in. Just walk out that door and never come back, and tomorrow we can act like this never happened. Her eyes flitted to mine and away again, as if annoyed that she'd caught me looking at her. I watched her thoughts crossing face and read them along with her. Watched her thinking, did he see me see him? Is it too late to pretend I didn't? I couldn't tell if she was wrestling with guilt or remorse, but whichever it was, she overcame it, and her face hardened with resolve. She excused herself from the people she'd been listening to, made her way around them, and came tentatively to the side of the wading pool. Several people were naked by now, rubbing one another with handfuls of oil, their skin shimmering. There was something about the way they wore nothing but the reflections of warm light and yellow saxophone music. Everyone became beautiful. The serpentine curve of the glimmer of light as it ran up the ribs of someone's side, a flash on the swell of someone's buttock, coupled with old-time jazz, made me feel as if we were transported to the golden age of Hollywood, and this was the A-lister rap party. And suddenly, it wasn't enough that I was on the sidelines. There was shame now in my status as their chef, as someone who just served these people. Even if I didn't necessarily want to have sex with them, I needed to have it as an option. Ariana was there by virtue of being hot, but I would have to be respected to get in. Until then, I was just some worker. I had no idea what I'd have to do since I was already giving it everything I had, but there had to be something. The most I'd gotten out of this had been some new diners and a bit of extra money. I'd schmoozed and self-promoted. It landed me a few catering gigs here and there, but it wasn't my ticket to the big time. Devin could replace me, and it would just be a momentary interest at the next party. I reeled at how unstable my position was. I'd be forgotten, and that would be that. By then, a lot of writhing naked bodies were squirming together, their skin glistening in the romantic light. Their groans and squelching could be heard over the music, and the waiting pool was ringed with spectators. Some were stripping down and rubbing themselves with oil, preparing to slip in and wriggle amongst perfect strangers. Some were just watching with a mild curiosity, dangling their champagne flutes from fingertips like brunchers at a polo match. "You're new, aren't you?" Devin asked, interrupting my thoughts. I think he did it on purpose to snap me out of it, because I'd been told my face gets grim when I brood. They shook hands across me and exchanged names. The gesture was absurd all of a sudden, the formality of it, because in between them the view was of a many-armed monster pawing at itself. Among all of the arms and legs and hands and feet, there flashed breasts and wobbling erect penises, and hands were stroking whoever was mashed up against who, all of them anonymous, none of them knowing or caring whose cock they guided into themselves or who they allowed themselves to be guided into. "How can you do this?" I asked suddenly, hypocritically. Devin glared at me, trying to will me to shut up, but Ken just sipped his drink and asked, "Do what?" "This," I reiterated, gesturing with my tray of hors d'oeuvres at the crowd. "Have sex with people when you know someone who loves you is watching." Devin rolled his eyes and stalked off, but Ken just smiled. "The trick," he said, "is knowing how to separate sex from love, and, if you can manage it, eliminating romantic love from your life entirely. It's not real love where you care about the other person more than you care about yourself. It's the bullshit love, the one that makes you suffer. You gotta break free of that, and the sooner the better." I watched Ariana's eyes, half hidden behind her glasses. I stared, concentrating all my telepathic strength to bore into her soul through the window of her eyes and make her see me as the one who truly loved her, and her eyes slid sideways to meet mine and snapped back with resentment. That's when I knew for sure. She was there trying to have a good time, maybe forget her recent ex, and I was getting in the way of that. Maybe a part of her liked me, but I was just a rebound for her. That horrid realization only strengthened my resolve. I had to become one of these people. I had to show her what I was made of. Then she slipped off her heels, one after the other, falling a good 3 inches in height. She lifted the hem of her skirt, gathered the fabric up and held it bunched in her hands, raised one perfect leg to dip a pointed toe into the pool as if testing the water. People laughed, and it broke the ice for 10 more of them to undress. I looked away in sudden revulsion. "What about AIDS?" I asked Ken. Isn't anyone worried about that?" He had been sipping his champagne and almost choked. "Not any more than the boogeyman," he said, when he'd recovered from his aborted laugh and dabbed his lips with his handkerchief. I looked at him curiously. "Why not?" He bit his tongue, and I kept that in the back of my mind. "You're not getting in?" I asked, changing the subject. He made a face. "This is a little too vanilla for me." "Is it?" "I go to a different party, and I just heard about this one and decided to check it out. Mostly I heard about your cooking. It made me curious. That's why I had dinner at your place before coming here. I must say I'm impressed." "Thank you." "We recently lost our chef, the one who catered our events, so I'm kind of scouting, looking for someone who knows his business and is discreet." He looked meaningfully at me. I put on my innocent face, my "of course you can trust me" face, and I realized how false that face was in retrospect, because I must not be very discreet after all since I'm writing a frickin' book about it. Feel free to judge me at the end. Devin sure has. I lied, evidently, and told him, "Well, I'm the man for the job. I've been catering this party for quite some time, and only the ghosts will know." Little esoteric mafia joke in there, which, judging by his tiny smile, he got.